Hi. Today I am going to interview or chat to Kye Crow in Suzy's chat room. This is one of her oracle cards. This is one of her books. And just as a surprise, I'm actually wearing one of her creations. There is so much about Kye that I could be talking all day, all week, all year about all the amazing things she's done. She is an artist. She's a seamstress. She designs her own clothes. I think she even makes some of the materials. She runs a sanctuary. She went across the desert with a handmade caravan drawn by 8 rescue camels. She's had an amazing life. So I'm going to introduce her now. I don't know what we're going to cover because it's up to her really what she'd like to share with us. So let me say that I'm going to do a number of these chats. Some people you'll know, some people you won't know, and some people you'd like to know. One of the people I would like you to know is Kye Crow. So I will introduce you right now. Are you there, Kye? Here we go. Yay. It says she's connected. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Good to see you, Suzy.
Good to see you too. How are you?
I'm good. I was all set up on another computer and I scratched the camera trying to clean it. So I've just been running like crazy to get another little old laptop set up with Zoom.
So you're okay now?
I'm okay. Just going to give myself a nice relaxing rose water. But yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, I felt it. It was really nice. Thank you.
Yeah,
so,
good.
so I have said just a fraction of what you're all about. I think it's more important that I leave it up to you to share what you feel you'd like to share. I think one of the things that people do know about you is your amazing trip, 2 years across desert and probably other lands with a menagerie of rescue animals, and you rescued some along the way as well, didn't you? So did you want to tell us a little bit about that? I think it was it 15 years ago now?
It was. And it's all been part of this life that I live as a grid guardian. And that often means for me that I'm guided to go into places and clear dark energy and anchor light. And when we first decided to go on that trip, well, Gil had to persuade me for 2 years because we just bought a house. So I was like busy looking at paint schemes in the house, and Gil wanted to sell it and go on this big wagon trip. And it took 2 years to convince me to do it. And it was like, I had no idea what we were doing when we left. I thought that it was a means of traveling from A to B, that we were going to find another place to live closer to our family on the East Coast. That was the aim. But we ended up going on this incredible trip that was completely guided by spirit. We really had to let go of our destination. And we had with us over 50 rescued animals. We traveled in a camel wagon, which was pulled by 8 of our previously rescued camels. And we had a donkey, dogs, goats, parrots, doves. Have I got everyone? Chickens, our rooster.
I heard, did you hear the rooster just remind you?
I don't hear them anymore. They're just part of my background.
Okay, well, there was. He was crowing.
Was that your end or my end?
Oh, well, it was your end. There isn't any roosters here.
Oh, there's lots here, so you may get more roosters. Yeah. So we went on this incredible journey of trust, and we welcomed several other animals that we met along the way that we were guided would come into our lives before we met them. And each one had issues with being dangerous. Two of them were about to be shot because of their dangerous behavior. One was a camel and one was a billy goat. And we welcomed them into our lives and onto this trip and saw this incredible transformation. It was like how they'd been behaving was what they needed to do in those situations to survive. And they felt the energy of the love that we all traveled in. And they were amazing, amazing. So yeah, we traveled for just over 2 years. We did about 2,200 kilometers, something like that.
That's amazing. How did you manage to feed all the animals and yourselves?
Well, we were very well prepared. Like we had, the wagon is so strong. It was like a little ark. And we had sacks and sacks of chicken feed and parrot feed, plus all our dried food. The camels ate the grass as we went, at the bush, so they were okay. We had also had like the biggest first aid kit for every emergency that we could think of, including meeting orphaned animals along the way. So we were like this traveling, kind of like traveling animal rescue wagon, because that's what we did as we went.
So were you a girl guide when you were young, that you've got this be prepared tattoo across your
Yes. I was a girl guide actually, but I don't think that prepared me for this trip.
Well,
Gil, nothing really could have prepared us for this trip. And our lives got to a point where I resisted going on this trip. Gil wanted to go and he began building the wagon. And I resisted and resisted. And our lives were like, we were wholesaling our clothing all around Australia and over to the UK.
Did you know?
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, lovely. And we were getting so busy. We were so overwhelmed with working. And we were on such a treadmill that when we eventually left, we had this idea of like sitting around campfires and like walking freely and not knowing what the day would bring. And it was just this, it was what kept us going in the end of dismantling the life that we had. Because when we decided to do this trip, we were in the middle of renovating our house. So we had to put back the kitchen or renew the kitchen. We had to do the bathroom. So we had a lot of work to do to get ready. And when we left on the trip, the first 6 months, I've written about this and I'm writing this book now, was hell. It was hell. Like there were days I was laying in the sand, screaming at Gil. I've got like sticks and dirt in my hair. I'm scratched and like, I was cursing him for making me sell the house and going on this trip because every animal was going in a different direction. We were exhausted. Like I went from sewing all day and sitting in front of a computer to out striding through the desert, dealing with all these animals and working really hard physically. And we had this incident where the brakes went on our wagon. And as a result, we were forced to pull up over the heat of the summer while Gil longer for the brakes. And during that time, we totally unwound. We did yoga every day. We were meditating. We moved into this blissful space with all our animals. And Spirit kept saying to me, when you leave again, it's going to be as it should be. And when we set off again, I think the first day we did, something like 22 kilometers. And prior to that, like there were days where we got all the animals ready to go and only traveled such a short distance, we could still see the fire pit that we'd camped at the night before. Like it was the first month, the first 75 kilometers was the biggest challenge of my life. And in the time that we were still and had time to really center and let go of a lifestyle that was like very focused on goals. Like, because we left on that trip with the same kind of headspace we've been in around our business. Must do this, must. And so we left on the trip going, must get 20 kilometers, must do this. And we had to let all that go. And when we did, it flowed and we flowed. And we realized it was never about the animals. It was never about the animals being trained. It was us. We were the ones being trained. So yeah.
Spirit put the brakes on, literally.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we had two incidences of me leading the camels downhill and realizing the brakes weren't going to work properly. And I'm running at top speed, yelling at Gil to put the brakes on. And I went flying out of the way, landed in a bush, like I was like sobbing by the side of the road. I'm not doing this anymore. But, you know, like it was incredible. It was incredible. And it was very different when we set off again. We were so peaceful, you know, and we used to travel. If we met beautiful people along the way, we traveled a kilometer. We didn't count the kilometers anymore. We just enjoyed the flow of our day. And that was essential because we met so many people as we traveled. I just let that dog in.
Okay.
Things like that, Susie, quickly. Yeah.
You can let in as many animals as you like.
Oh, yeah, it's constant. So yeah, that was
at the end of your trip when you decided to stop. What gave you the idea that was a place you could actually rest for a while with all your animals?
We had no choice, Susie. Like this is how our life unfolds. And I didn't, when we arrived at a rundown scout camp, I did not for 1 minute think that we had reached our destination. And it was on a lake that had been dry for a long time. It was a place that hadn't had any love. And it was just tin sheds, lots of rubbish. And it wasn't, I had been traveling from Alice Springs to this place. And I had this vision of this house that we were going to live in. And it was beautiful. I could see myself walking down the drive. And the drive had trees all the way down it. And I would feel the feeling of being there. And I didn't have a single doubt that was waiting for us at the end of this trip, because I felt like we have let go of everything in our life. We've been totally willing to throw ourselves out there into life and you know, without even a tightrope or a safety net, you know, we didn't even have safety nets. And I had no doubt that what the vision that I held would manifest. So when we get to this scout camp, doesn't even occur to me that it's going to be our home. I did have a dream, which was very relevant to it 2 days before we arrived at it. Then we spent we pulled up over summer and we asked if we could use the place to make some clothing over the heat of summer, and then we get going again in winter. And we were given permission to do that. And then when we went to leave in winter, everything went wrong. Like things broke on the wagon and a camel of ours was sick. And so we couldn't go. So we put it off another year. And then more things happened. And in that time, we started to look at the place and think, perhaps we could transform this place. But, you know, there was the other thing that happened was when we first pulled up there, I didn't want to stay there. And so I said to Gil, let's go and drive around, put some signs out, see if we can find anywhere else to stay, because I really don't want to stay here. The energy's not nice. And we drove everywhere we did about a 6-hour trip. Left all our animals and our wagon all safe and and you know, that went off. And as we were coming back, we were driving down the dirt road back to this scout camp, and it started to rain so heavily. And the car, the mud road that we were on is just like, it's just like water. And the next minute we're sliding across the road, and we tip up in the car, and we're hanging upside down in our car on the edge of a steep bank, and we're looking out across this lake. There was a big lake and a little lake that was dry where the scout camp was. And we're looking out across the main lake, and there's a rainbow arching across the sky. And our car was written off. We couldn't go looking for anywhere else again. So that's how our life seems to unfold. And I've come to see now that it's, what I understand from our path is that some people come down onto the earth with a very specific job. And that's what Gil and I have come with. We've come with this very specific job to go into places where there haven't been light beings. And in that place, when we first went there, it was hard because we stuck out. We really stuck out. And we always had a bit of hostility there. But in that place also was a lot of a lot of animal lovers, which was beautiful. That kept us going there. But it was a hard place for us to be vibrationally.
Yeah. When you were talking about seeing this beautiful house and a driveway with trees each side as your vision that you were going to manifest, would it be fair to say to those people who are being encouraged to manifest at the moment, there's a lot of talk about manifesting, to remind them that they will only actually manifest something that was in their blueprint, that is something that is right for them to do as far as spirit is concerned, and that if it doesn't go according to their manifestation vision, that might be a hint that they are actually going where they need to go. Would you say that that's true?
I agree with that. I think that where I've come to for myself is because for a lot of my journey, I had a lot of doubts around it, because when I looked at the spiritual world, it showed me things that were not happening in my life. So I've ended up with a rundown scout camp instead of this beautiful home. So am I blocked, or, you know, am I unable to manifest? And what I understand now is that isn't a place, actually having vision boards and trying to manifest isn't a place of being totally present in this moment and allowing life to unfold. And I really experienced this in India, because I had 6 months in India where on the first week of my stay, I had all my money stolen, everything. I didn't even have a rupee. And for the first half an hour, I did a mad panic, and I ran everywhere that I had been, looking desperately for this. It must be here, it must be here. And I was in a panic, as you can imagine. And then I sat down on the ground when I realized it had gone and it wasn't coming back. I sat down on the ground, and I got in touch with how I felt. And I was so surprised to discover that I actually felt relieved. That I'd spent a week in India, like you carry your valuables. It's because you hear all these stories, like they can put bamboo poles through your window as you're sleeping and knock you out with ether, and they can drug you with food they offer you. And I've experienced them sending monkeys in to take bags. And so you're constantly clutching this bag, and you're terrified that the bag's going to go. And when it left, I felt this incredible relief. And I found myself moving into this space of total trust. And I lived there for 6 months in a flow that was so incredible, that brought everything I needed to me in the moment. I never had to ask for anything or think about it. I would just have a thought, I feel like being creative. And the next morning, a guy turned up and he said, I don't know why, but I felt to bring these to you today. And he brought me a whole load of fabric paints. And, you know, like one day, I feel like to have sat down and said, I need to manifest these things because they're not in my life, would have taken me out of the miraculous flow I was in. I don't choose to do that anymore. I don't choose to try and create visions of what I want to bring into my life. I allow my life to flow now.
With faith.
Pardon?
With faith.
The same. With faith. Yeah, yes. I think that when you're aligned, this is what I got from India, that I stayed in a place of alignment and gratitude and kind of like childlike wonder at all the ways that money came to me. And, you know, one experience that I had, which was wonderful, but I had a very small amount of money left from the different ways that it came to me. And I decided to catch a bus to a town that was a few hours away so I could buy some basic provisions. And at the end of the day, I was really exhausted and I went to get the bus home. And right beside the bus was a little taxi and it had like little lace curtains and it looked so enticing. And I asked the driver how much it was going to be and he said 70 rupees. And I had 75 rupees left. And right next to that was the bus. It was like only 2 rupees, but it was packed. And there was like distorted Bollywood music coming out of it. And it would take like an hour and a half to get home. And I looked at the taxi and I thought, I have to take the taxi. And as I was in the taxi, I was thinking, have I gone mad? I've only got 5 rupees left now. And then this voice said, no, Kye, this is honoring yourself. So when I got home, I actually went out and bought dinner for 5 rupees. And I woke up in the morning and I sat in my little cane hut and I said, okay, universe, I've got a cat coming now. Okay, universe, how am I gonna eat today? How are you gonna manifest a miracle? And this voice said, go to the cafe as usual, Kye. And so I thought, okay, I got up, I walked to the cafe, which was only like a 2-minute walk at the most. And as I started off, I thought, how can a miracle manifest now? Like there's no time. And I found 50 rupees laying on the ground. Like that was how my life went from one incredible, miraculous incident to another. And, you know, I was looked up that I somebody needed help or I wanted someone to give me something. I was in this abundant and beautiful flow. And that's how I try and live now.
Yeah, what is encouraging is to hear you say, like right at the beginning of the journey and during the journey and your experiences in India, that you had doubts. That how am I going to do this? You know, you had doubts.
Yeah.
You know, what's going to happen? I don't want to do this. And I think a lot of people feel that if they have the doubts, then that's an indication that they shouldn't go there. They shouldn't do that. So maybe when some people say, feel the fear and do it anyway, you can say, allow the doubts and do it anyway, because if you're guided to do it, that's where and what you should be doing.
I think that if it's a path that you're guided to do, it's going to happen whether you like it or not. Like that's what I discovered for me. Like I have been a huge resistor of my path, but that's because it takes me to places that look horrible. And you know, like where I am now, because we ended up moving on from the place that we spent 12 years at on the edge of the lake. And that was because our time up was there. We had done what we needed to do. But it wasn't an easy departure, as you may know. And it was like, we ended up dealing with some pretty dark people that were trying to stop what we were doing. And we ended up moving out, and we got plonked in another place that felt bleak and unloved, and I this is a good story for now. This is a really good story for people now, because what's happening on the planet, we've reached a point now where so much light is being anchored, and all of the darkness that's been hidden is rising up to be seen. And now more than ever, it's essential that people begin to align with this divine flow in their lives. And I teach through the experiences that I have. And often I get extreme experiences so that I've got the lesson really clearly. And it's very easy for people to understand a lesson if it's come from somebody that's been right down in the gutter as well. When we arrived here, it was so bleak, and I went into like this dark hole. I thought that we would be able to move all our possessions here very soon, and I'd be able to set up with my sewing and creating and earning an income. And the house was so tiny, there was no room for anything. And we had no money. We had enough money, we gathered enough money to get our animals fed, but we basically lived on eggs, because we have chickens, flour and jam that we bought for $2 a jar, and a bag of flour, and we lived on pancakes. And there were times where I just felt so desperate about that situation, and that's okay. We're allowed to feel all those things. But if you want to shift it, you have to start looking at it in a different way. And so I realized that the spiral I was on with feeling dark was only taking me further into darkness. And what Gil and I did was we started to make it a real game to be grateful for everything. And so he'd say to me, how are you going to have your pancakes today? And we'd just we'd be silly, and we'd laugh about it, and we'd give thanks for them. And very slowly, we started to shift the space that we were in, that had really come about through exhaustion, through dealing with these people that we were dealing with, which was all part of our sacred work and all part of the lessons that we learned that give us tools. But, you know, there were days where I felt so dark that I couldn't see anything to be grateful for. And then one day I noticed sunlight glinting in a teaspoon on the draining board. And I just looked at that glint, and I felt the glint of that light just lift me. And so I started to look for glints of light, like the sun reflecting on a bit of glass on the ground, or a windscreen, a side view mirror, the light reflecting in that. And I started to see glints of light everywhere. And I started to lift in how I felt. And through being grateful for the pancakes and, you know, a bag of apples that we were given, we were living so simply, our life began to shift. And we're still in that same place now. We're still living in this same place. But we're actually in a space of incredible gratitude for it, because if we had gone where I wanted us to go when we left the last place, we would have experienced fires, we would have experienced extreme drought with absolutely no feed, whereas here our camels have all gone through the drought not needing to be fed, they're so fat. So we've been really looked after here, and we're kind of seeing this place as, it's not our permanent home, it's a stepping stone, and it's given us a chance to rest, to complete my next book, which is very, very close, only a couple of chapters, and just really focus inner. That's what it's been. It's been a real inner journey.
Well, what is your next book called?
The Love We Live.
Okay. And can you just give us a little sneak preview as to what direction that book would take us?
Well, that book is about the trip with all the animals.
Okay.
So it's our big journey with all the animals and what led up to that. And yeah, it's special. It's probably the I'm loving writing it. I'm loving reconnecting with that time of living in such trust and simplicity and not knowing how each day is going to unfold. You know, each day was so new. So I'm loving, every time I write a book, I connect with the lessons that I learned in that time, which, you know, we do forget sometimes.
We do. And I think what you were saying about gratitude is very important at the moment, because I speak to a lot of people who, fortunately, I'm in country Victoria, but I've got family, a lot of family and friends in Melbourne. And the sort of complaints that they're bringing up to highlight, really, sometimes it's almost laughable, the things that they're complaining about that they've lost. And it would be good if they can flip this over to see all the things that they're gaining, you know, more inner knowledge, more time to do things that they thought they never would, all sorts of, there's always a silver lining to every cloud. And I think gratitude is what will help the people, not just in Melbourne, not just in Australia, but in the world. Gratitude for what we have already is what is going to lift us from falling into that dark hole. And actually knowing that we can connect with that spark that you saw in the teaspoon. We can connect, and that as soon as we start connecting and that light starts to flow, then more will transpire, more will eventuate.
That's so true. And that's, you know, I totally relate to the frustration and the feeling that things have been taken away. I can totally relate to that, because that's exactly how I felt when I came here. I felt that so many aspects of my life had gone, my friends, my home, my ability to sow, the wildlife that I used to care for, the little joeys. I don't have that in my life now. And for a while, they were all the things I focused on. And, you know, it took a big jump in a shift for me to realize that I had to shift the way I was looking at, excuse me, at my life, and start to see the beauty, the big old tree out the back. Like even now, this is a place that can get quite bleak, you know, and so now I have this thing where if my head starts to lose, if I start to
You've actually frozen a little bit.
go on in my head, oh, I haven't got friends around me, or I want this, or I want that. Bougainvilleas. Oh. My connection is unstable. Can you hear me now?
Yes. I think I can hear you, but you're not talking, so I can't.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yes.
And I think that the role now for people that are feeling that things have gone away is inner. So focus on what you can do to make your space as beautiful and as harmonious as you can. Nurture yourself, like eat good food, eat a lot of raw stuff if you can, juices, so that you feel good. And start to count the things that you're grateful for. It could just be a comfy chair. That's where you start. You're so grateful for the comfy chair. And then you notice that there's a rose bush growing outside, and you look at it every day without really acknowledging it. And then you start to focus on the gratitude, and then you see that more and more things open up and aligned with this energy now, and move through this time on the earth, because What is coming is magnificent. What is being birthed right now is so beautiful. It's everything that all of us sensitive, beautiful, kind people that have wanted to live in a world that cares for one another and the animals have dreamt of. It is coming, and the oldest will think it does. All the roots have been pulled out. It's just on the surface now. It's going to topple soon. So the more that we stay in our gratitude and our love, the sooner that's going to happen.
Do you find that people that you connect with, do you find that there's more and more people who are believing this to be the truth, that we are actually clearing any of the negativity that's held us back and limited us, and we are moving to this beautiful time on the planet? Do you feel that more people are really getting this at the moment?
I think people are waking up very quickly. I think there's a first step where people see the reality of how we've been controlled. They see that. And then the next step is to realize that they are a divine being and they have the power. They have all the power. So I think the first step is to see what's happening, because you can't heal a wound if you don't acknowledge it, if you don't look at it. I think that we're all going to be in a situation where we're going to see things that we wish that we hadn't. But we need to know that the only reason this stuff is rising up now is because it's being cleared. So if we can stay in our hearts and not get into the judgment and the hate and the attack, but just see it as things that are rising because they're now leaving. And we're going to move through this time. And I don't think it's far away. I don't think it's far away. I feel like I'm living in a train waiting room, a little bit like that, you know, and life just keeps going. Hang on a bit, just hang on a bit. It's going to come. What you want to create is going to be happening very soon. We've just got to move through this next phase. So, yeah, it's an exciting time.
So really, what happened to you in the different places that you've lived, and you've transformed something that was dark and uncomfortable and something that you didn't like, you were able to transform that into something that you could accept and that was beautiful in your eyes through the gratitude you had learned to honor. So maybe that little time that you had in those places can be expanded in thought to what is going on in the world today.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. Yes.
So before we finish, and I mean, we could talk all day. I mean, I just love everything that you say and do.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit, what animals do you have there at the moment, if you're able to count them?
Yeah, I can't, I actually haven't counted them, but we have camels and we have quite a few horses, about 15 horses that all came to us in the last drought, skeletal, and they're all blooming now. Even they came pregnant, so we've even had some babies. We've got cats and dogs, lots of dogs, 11 dogs, lots of chickens. Gil's walking around today with a tiny little baby budgerigar that he found yesterday with a broken leg and a damaged wing, and he's nursed it back to health. Like it looked like it was about to die, and now it's sitting in his hand. So he's doing every job today with a little baby budgie in his hand. And we've got parrots, lots of goats, sheep. There's always one, I think, a donkey. It's like as full on as all the other animals put together. Like she's just such a character. Mm-hmm. That's it, I think.
And looking forward, although I know you don't really want to look at goals as such, looking forward, I think what will give you and your animals a better life is to be able to create a sanctuary. You're no longer looking at the beautiful house with the driveway and the trees. You're looking at a place that is a sanctuary that people can visit and perhaps gain more knowledge about animals and their habitat.
Yeah,
This
that's
so yes,
that's absolutely it's going to happen. We've always known that it would happen. And I think that it's going to be a lot bigger than what we've even imagined it will, because I feel that Gil and I are going to be teaching people how to live in a space of trust and how to live in that flow. And that means that, like, our life, like if we drive to town and we see injured animals along the way, we stop. You know, like very often we've arrived in town with I've had an emu sitting on my lap by the time we get to town, you know, because we've had to get it to a vet. Or our life is about helping those who are in need that are part of our life. And that has meant for us, for 2 years, we looked after this really grumpy old bloke that lived a kilometre down the dirt track here, who drank himself silly, smoked like a trooper, like didn't ever eat anything healthy, and it was as grumpy as anything. And mostly Gil, because I sometimes found him a little bit too hard to deal with, but Gil went down, cleaned up his wounds because he hadn't tended them at all, and they'd become infected. He fixed his car. We looked after it, both of us did it, but we looked after him for 2 years before he died. And that for us is how we start to create community. Like I feel that we're going to be moving more into community, and that means that we will start to look after the old people that are part of that community, and we start to all care for one another, and we start to, you know, grow foods that we can exchange with each other and help each other. I feel like communities are going to come back, and our vision is part of showing people how that can be done and how we can live in this way of helping and caring for one another.
And everyone can make a difference.
Yeah, everyone is making a difference. Yes, absolutely. And everyone came for this. Everyone came for this with a particular gift to offer this time. And it doesn't matter what your situation is. It doesn't matter how dark or bleak it looks to you right now. It can change, and it will change if you just shift your focus. And it's like,
yeah,
that's
a wonderful sentiment to end our little chat with. So I would like to say thank you so much for giving us this time. I know that you must be extremely busy with everything that you do, and
it's lovely.
Arkhart is your business name. So I'm going to suggest to people that they look at your Facebook page under Arkhart.
What I'm actually doing is bringing everything back now to one page, and that page is called Kye Beloved Crow. Okay. And that's my focus now.
Okay.
I started up too many pages, and I can't separate everything in my life anymore. I'm bringing it down to just one page.
Beautiful.
So Kye Beloved Crow.
Kye Beloved Crow.
And if they want to look at a website, it is www.arkhart.love.
Great. And there they can see the books that you've written, the cards, and
yes.
a lot of the things that Gil has made. You can't quite see them there behind me, the beautiful bowls and things that I've bought from you over the time. And of course, garments like this. Yes, so there's so much to see on the website. And if anyone wants to sit back there and think, well, what can I do in this day and age? I would suggest that they get behind you, because even if they feel that they are restricted in their area at this present time, at least they can help other people who are out there doing what hopefully they will do themselves in the future, or support
And
those.
I think everybody's got different gifts. Like some people have been able in this time to build up a big income and amass wealth. Other people have been focused in different things. Somebody else may be a great, person on Facebook doing your media. Everybody has a gift. And now it's a matter of bringing all those together. So whatever it is that people feel they resonate with, get behind it and begin to help in some way. And
Yeah.
I think that very soon we're going to see many people are going to find their connection with their path, with what fills them with passion. A lot of people are feeling they don't know what that is at this present time. And that's because all of the bits of the jigsaw haven't fallen into place yet, but they are going to very soon. And so people are going to discover, they're going to realize that they feel really strongly connected with that or this, or it's all happening. And we've just got to trust that process.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Hopefully we'll speak again in the not too distant future. And
thank you. It's been lovely.
God bless you, Kye, for all that you do. Thank you.
You too. And so much love, eh?
Yeah.
Big love. Thank you.
Bye-bye.